So let's talk about where things are sitting with the postal strike. I mean, what if you went on strike and nobody cared? It's kind of like an ex who walks out the door and then, okay, you shrug. And a month later, she phones you because she's all pissed that you didn't call. Hey, you walked out. It's your problem. Found out that you didn't really want her that much in the first place. Well, postal workers are learning that hard lesson right now, that their service, it isn't as essential to people as they thought it was. Nearly a month on the picket lines, and all they've managed to accomplish is to lose public support and speed up Canada's transition to a paperless society. They can't hold Canadians hostage during the Christmas season any longer like they used to. Their strikes don't cripple the nation. All they do is annoy them. Demand for letter mail, it's not going to come back. And the only people who appear not to know this are the postal workers in the union. Canada Post was given a monopoly on letter delivery, but even with that, they can't fund themselves through it. Letter mail's dropped by over half in volume since 2016, and it's still dropping. Canada Post has lost $3 billion since 2018, and the losses are mounting faster. They might be on track to lose $1 billion in 2024 alone. This hemorrhaging can't continue, and unless something dramatic changes, Canada Post is going to go broke. Now, as a crown corporation, it's supposed to be self-funding. They love constantly saying, hey, we're not taking tax dollars. Well, yeah, actually, if they go broke, we get to pay for it. So taxpayers are liable for the debts incurred. And Canada's already in a rather dire economic situation with massive government debt, low productivity, and a rising cost of living. Adding billions more to the debt load if Canada Post goes under won't be doing us any favors. Not only should Canada Post refuse to give in to the union demands for raises, it's got to commit to scaling its size and scope dramatically down to face contemporary reality. The route to solvency for Canada Post might be harsh for its employees, but it's actually pretty simple. With 68,000 employees, labor is by far the biggest expense with Canada Post, and that's where the cuts have got to come. We've got to stop all direct-to-doorstep letter delivery. It's ridiculously expensive and labor-intensive. Over 2/3 of Canadians have already had their mail coming to some form of community mailbox or another already. The only reason the transition didn't fully go to community boxes was because Justin Trudeau cut a deal with the postal union back in 2016. Well, that deal's got to end, and the community boxes have got to go everywhere. One worker can cover the ground of dozens of carriers by just traveling from box to deliver mail rather than walking house to house. And delivery no longer needs to be daily. If a person has a pressing immediate need to have a document delivered to their door, they can pay express post or a private courier to deal with it. Postal workers deliver little more than flyers daily these days anyways. There isn't enough demand to justify going out 5 days a week. Once a week will suffice. Twice tops. Canada Post should also just get out of the parcel delivery business. I mean, they had a near monopoly on it a few years ago and they blew it. The private market has filled the parcel void with superior service and now is a majority market share. Canada Post might as well just divest from it. At most, all Canada Post should be doing is providing some subsidized service to remote regions, but that's about it. By ending home delivery, ending parcel services, and cutting to 1 day a week, Canada Post should be able to shed tens of thousands of positions. I mean, they'll still have a legislative monopoly on letter service, and even if it manages to lose money in that size, at least the losses will be smaller than the current ones. And yes, lots of jobs are going to be lost. That's unfortunate, but that's life. There's not many milkmen delivering any longer either. Is Canada Post supposed to be providing mail service anyways, or is it a social welfare program? It's not. It's the only point's whether, to provide jobs. Well, then maybe we should just start a crown corporation to hire thousands of people to dig holes and fill them back in again. It'll serve the same purpose as using Canada Post as an employment program, but it won't contribute to as much traffic on the streets. Some postal workers would find employment in the private courier sector as that industry expands. Others are just going to have to retire or find new trades. And hey, they get a hell of a pension, guys. The strike has taught Canadians that losing Canada Post as we know it is an inconvenience at worst. We don't need a huge national postal service. And with the strike driving of millions of people into converting to electronic finances and communications, Canada Post must shrink. Let's cut it with a plan to transition workers as painlessly as possible, but let's get on with it. There's no longer work for film processors, record store employees, or barrel stave makers either. The world changes and the workforce must adapt to deal with it. Postal workers had a good gig, but the run's over, guys.